Hey there, Alex here. This is the Galaxy Note 8. In a nutshell, it's a slightly bigger version of the S8 Plus with a stylus and a few differences. If you already know the S8 Plus, you'll know that it's a pretty damn good phone. So that makes buying the Note 8 a no-brainer, right? Well, not exactly. In a lot of ways, the Note 8 is remarkably similar to the S8 Plus. It's a similar design language, just a little bit more squarish and a little nicer to hold in hand. It has the new Infinity display that is once again the best display in the market, bar none. It's ever so slightly bigger than the S8 Plus at 6.3 inches, and it's still just as hard to reach the top of the screen. But it's something I can easily forgive since it makes multitasking on the phone really enjoyable. Talking about hard to reach, the fingerprint sensor is still way up beside the cameras, which is very annoying. In the end, I gave up and just used the iris scanner instead. It's not nearly as quick or convenient, but at least it works relatively well most of the time. Even while jogging, I could get the phone unlocked with a bit of effort. And while we're talking about the not so great stuff, let's just talk about Bixby and get it over with. First of all, the Bixby button is still here. The good thing is, you can now stop the button from launching Bixby Home when you accidentally press it, but a long press still activates Bixby Voice. Oh yeah, since I've reviewed the S8, Bixby Voice is now available. I think it has a lot of potential, especially when it comes to more complex tasks like taking a screenshot and sharing it with a person through a particular app. But like most voice assistants, it has its limitations, and that's where most people will just give up when they reach it. It's fun to play around with, but just not something I find all that useful for now. Moving on to the specifications, this is pretty much just the S8 Plus but with more RAM. Performance-wise, it actually feels a tiny bit snappier than the S8 Plus, most likely thanks to better optimizations. You still get those very minor inexplicable stutters and pauses every now and then, just to remind you that this is still TouchWiz after all. But other than that, performance is pretty much as you would expect from a flagship phone. There is one area that bugs me a little though, and that's the 3300 mAh battery. Just a quick reminder here, the S8 Plus has a 3500 mAh battery. It still gets me through a day of moderate use just fine, but it's just not what I would call great battery life. Part of the reason for that reduced battery size is probably this, the S Pen. Some people love it, some people just don't care for it. There are some unique S Pen features, but if you really think about it, most of them can be done on a phone without a stylus too. Like the new live message feature for example, which lets me create a short animation that I can send to anyone, or some of the older features like cropping a portion of the screen for a screenshot. Remember the scroll capture feature that launched with the Note 5? That eventually made its way to the S series anyway. So, the main advantage of the S Pen to me is just for that final point of input, either for taking notes, editing spreadsheets, playing games, or drawing. If any of those are important to you, then you'll probably love the S Pen on the Note 8. Things like pulling out the S Pen and being able to do pages upon pages of notes without ever turning on the screen, or making these fun little doodles using live message for a more personalized touch. These are pretty fun features to have. The S Pen also has a finer tip this year and recognizes up to 4096 levels of pressure like the Note 7, which makes it pretty nice to draw on using Samsung's own Art Canvas app. It takes a bit of getting used to, and it's still not quite as responsive as I would have liked, but it's good enough for the occasional doodle to pass some time. And really, other than these S Pen specific features, the software experience is pretty much the same as the S8 Plus. It's not my favorite Android interface, but I can't deny that Samsung has done a decent job. The icon design and interface looks cohesive. I also like that they give you the option to choose what Samsung apps you want when you first set up the phone. There are useful features like always on display, a do not disturb mode for games, more flexibility for split screen mode, and many more. It's not my favorite software experience, but I think most folks would be really happy with it. Then we move on to the next big feature, the dual 12MP cameras on the back of the phone. One wide angle, the other a telephoto camera. The slightly more unique thing about the cameras here are that they both have optical image stabilization, which should improve video quality. It does the usual 2x zoom like most other dual camera phones, which means it has the same drawback of not being that useful in low light. But I do like Samsung's live focus feature, which not only creates a shallower depth of field, but also allows adjusting of the focus after the shot. It also captures using both cameras at the same time as a fallback. The effect still looks a little artificial if you push it a bit too far, but it's one of the better implementations I've seen around. But to me, the most important thing is that the main camera is able to capture great looking shots as you would expect from a Samsung flagship phone. It's pretty much just point and shoot in auto mode, and you'll get good looking results no matter whether it's in good lighting or low light. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, just know that it's really good. The only thing that maybe I'm not a huge fan of is the front camera. I just feel like the image processing is a little overboard in low light. Overall, the Note 8 is a pretty amazing phone, and probably one of the best Android phones that money can buy today. It comes with almost everything that you would expect from a flagship phone in 2017, and then some. The hardware is top-notch, the design looks premium, it's water-resistant, and it still has a headphone jack. It's just such a well-rounded package. But this is actually not the phone that I would recommend to most people. For me, the S8 Plus offers most of what the Note 8 offers at a cheaper price. Not to mention, you get a slightly bigger battery. The dual cameras are fun, but not groundbreaking by any means. You know, I have no doubt that the Note 8 is the best Samsung smartphone around, but it's not something that I think most people will need. Unless you really want that S Pen, the S8 Plus could be a better option. Thanks for watching my review of the Galaxy Note 8. If you liked it, be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, and see you guys on the next one.